Hi, Homeworthy. I'm George. Welcome to my home in Lake Como. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is George Anthony Gottl. I'm the Chief Creative Officer for Future Brand. Welcome to my beautiful home here in Lake Como. The thing that drew me to Lake Como is pretty much everything. It is, in my opinion, one of the most perfect places on the planet. It is stunningly beautiful. The lake is incredibly special. It's the deepest lake in Europe. It's a glacier lake, and it's surrounded by these beautiful mountains all around. The Alps are only a few minutes away, to give you an idea of mountains. It has beautiful medieval towns that surround the lake. It has beautiful Baroque palaces around the lake, and also an incredibly vibrant and contemporary lifestyle. The restaurants in Como are stunning, they're delicious, and the views from them are absolutely breathtaking. It's the perfect playground. I was very fortunate to actually kind of stumble on this home. I think fate brought me to this home because we were looking for a home in Italy for almost 2 years. And originally I was looking in Genoa because my great-grandfather is from Genoa, and I thought it'd be nice to have a home close to the roots of my family. We looked and looked and looked at Genoa, and we saw many beautiful places, but Genoa was not exactly what we had hoped it would be in terms of a city. I had never been there prior to looking for homes. And then we found a couple of very interesting homes in Como that filled the things that we were looking for, that filled the search requirements that we were looking for. One of them being frescoes. I wanted to have an Italian home that had frescoes. I'm a big fan of Italian Renaissance art. I wanted to be able to live in something that had a little piece of that. And we found this place. And weirdly enough, when we bought it, the ceiling was very interesting. It did not have an evident fresco when we bought it. But then when we bought it and started restoring it, we discovered a fresco underneath the white paint. And I was absolutely thrilled. So as you can see, it was fate, really, for us to have this home. Well, welcome to the living room. As you can see, it is very unique. It has what is called an umbrella vault. Normally in Italian homes, you have what is a groin vault, which is basically 4 arches that come together. Here you can see 6 arches come together and create this incredibly elaborate dome. When we bought the house, the architecture was here, but none of the fresco paint was exposed. It was all completely white. We put in sandstone floors. Originally, what was here was these very inexpensive kind of home decor store terracotta tiles. So we redid all of the floors, we put in the lighting, we restored the fresco, we discovered even more frescoes along the walls, and we also reworked and restored the fireplace, mantle to its original condition. We were so thrilled and surprised to find the ceiling underneath. When I bought it, I thought okay, well, it's white, but maybe we can have some of the artisans who do frescoes here in Italy put a new fresco in. And I even had the fresco picked out, everything, the exact motif, everything exactly how we wanted it. And then the lady who was the restorer said, more than likely when they have this kind of ceiling, there's already something underneath. And sure enough, she got up on the ladder and with a little spatula went tuck, tuck, tuck. The paint fell off and there was color. I mean, I was so thrilled. That was like one of the best presents I've ever had. And as she kept going and restoring, we see that it's a full ceiling that's in actually pretty good condition, considering that it's probably from around the 1100s. There you go. We were absolutely thrilled to find this treasure underneath white paint. And as far as I'm concerned, it makes the room. I was very concerned at first about the blue, because blue's quite a difficult color to work with for interiors. But in the end, when you pair it with kind of natural tones like linen and soft beiges, it really looks beautiful and it really brings the warmth out. The room is filled with antiques. Some are works of art. Some of them are just old church relics. There we have St. John, but not the Baptist, the prophet. And ironically, St. John, even though he's about from the same period as the house, is actually French. We found him in the flea markets of Paris. I thought he was, at first I thought he was a woman because he looks very feminine, but apparently St. John was very, very young. He said he was Christ's favorite apostle. And so when you see St. John, he's the only one that does not have a beard. So St. John the Baptist is the one with the loincloth and the beard and the scruffy wild man look. St. John the Prophet is the one who's much more sort of adolescent looking. And this is St. John the Prophet, which I just think the statue, the coloration, the pose of the statue, everything I think is just so graceful and beautiful. I had to have them. So we got them and we shipped them all the way from Paris to here. I also love to collect white plaster. I was very inspired again by Florence, by the Accademia, where the statue of David is, and all of Michelangelo's masterpieces, the slaves, the dying slaves, the statue of David. But the Accademia also has a room in the back that is full of plaster reproductions, and I was very inspired by that space and thought, why don't I start my own collection of plaster? Because plaster is fairly inexpensive to purchase, but you can get all kinds of amazing sculptures. This is a head of Aphrodite, a wonderful 19th century artist model of a hand. This is the famous Hercules from Sicily. This is an anatomical model from Milan. These were very common in the 19th century for art classes, and you can see here, you can see all the musculature and everything underneath, beautifully articulated for an art class. Various other plaster. This is a 19th century statue. I'm not exactly sure who that is, but I just thought it was a very kind of nice, graceful head. This is a head of the same Hercules that I have the small miniature of, and this is Apollo. So I'm going to continue adding on to this collection. I have a Roman bust coming in plaster as well eventually. Unfortunately, didn't make it for the show. Then I have this wonderful little miniature. So this is from Bologna. This is also a 17th century piece. And you can see here, this is the anacanthus leaf. So from the garden, if you recall the anacanthus plant, this is the anacanthus leaf done in a motif, which is very typical of Italian decorative art. This is in a very, very typical Bolognese frame, which is this highly articulated frame using anacanthus leaves. And we have this wonderful little 17th century miniature painted of a very demure, very elegant lady. I don't know who she is. I found this at a flea market, believe it or not. I don't think they understood what a treasure this actually is. She's one of my favorite pieces, and I drug her around all over the world. When I was living in Italy the first time, and then we moved to Amsterdam, and she's been everywhere with us, so I just love her. I also have this wonderful little gift that a friend of mine made me that has a zillion, I don't even know how many are in here. These are dandelion heads, and the gift was called 1,000 Wishes. So as you know, when you take a dandelion head and you blow it, you can make a wish, and so this was given to me for my 60th birthday. I just love these chairs. These are Renaissance chairs, and you can see here they're very ornately carved. Again, some anacanthus leaf motif with the cherubim head. I obviously reupholstered them because when I purchased them, they had kind of this needlepoint upholstery on it, and I wanted to make it blend and have, again, a little bit more contemporary flavor to the house. They're both very different. They're not the same. So I thought they have the same shape but not the same motif, which I thought was wonderful. A lot of the accent furniture in here is contemporary. So I like mixing Renaissance, contemporary, and primitive together. And this table is a Malaysian table that's carved out of one piece of wood, which has a very rustic sort of primitive look to it. And again, I love the contrast between the sort of the elegance of the umbrella vault ceiling with this kind of primitive, very heavy kind of raw table. This little bird nest here is a gift from the garden. One day we had this horrible windstorm, and we found that on the floor. It was kind of sad because obviously some bird spent a lot of time making it. It's absolutely beautiful. and it belongs to a very, very tiny little bird. I forget the species of bird that it belongs to, but we put a little candied egg inside just to have it look like it has a nest. The egg has a nest. But anyway, I love it. I love this whole idea of kind of specimens and the wonder camera kind of room, which brings me to this dung beetle, which is amazing. So this beetle here that is metallic gold, as you can see, is actually a dung beetle, and this beetle actually rolls elephant feces into a ball, but it actually looks like that, which I think is incredible that a creature that lives literally in poop is so golden and shiny, and I love that. That was given to me also as a gift. Well, we love to have parties. In fact, we're going to have a very big party. We have almost 100 people coming, and we're going to have a garden party, fully catered. Our theme is La Dolce Vita, and so we're using the music from Italian pop from the 60s and 70s for the theme of the evening. And we're hosting it with food and champagne, and it should be a wonderful evening. So we always like to entertain when we're in town. This room in particular, we tend to entertain mostly during the winter because obviously the garden is so wonderful and the weather here is generally very nice. So outdoor entertaining for us is kind of the main thing when we're here. But we did have a wonderful Christmas dinner here last Christmas with all our friends. And so it was a very cozy, wonderful, very holiday, festive feeling kind of event. So I mean, for us, it's one of the things that's so wonderful about this place is that it's wonderful to share it with all our friends and our loved ones. Because Como is just a very special place in general. And we're very fortunate to have a place here. We have this wonderful spiral staircase, which looks beautiful, but is not very practical. Like you have a lot of luggage to lug up and down. So luckily we have another entrance with a back staircase, but sculpturally, it's a very beautiful, dramatic shape, and it really creates an accent within the living room. Believe it or not, it was covered in carpeting, and we removed it all, sanded it down, and painted it black to give the impression, obviously, of a much more antique staircase, although this is from 1960. This piece here, I got from London when I lived there. It was in the window of Paul Smith. It had two cufflinks sitting in the center of the chair, and it had a little sign in the window that said, if you're interested in the art piece, please inquire within. And sure enough, I went in and inquired, and it was for sale. And it was for sale by one of the art students at the Royal Academy. I loved it. I loved that it was something that, again, the dichotomy of everything, the fact that it's made from a piano and that it's actually a jacket. And I loved how casually it was thrown over this antique chair. I just thought it had beautiful texture, history, and the surprise of it being made of a material that you would never think a piece of clothing being made out of. The dining room table is contemporary because it's quite difficult to find a table so large. The table is 3 meters long, and it's made of reclaimed wood from India. So it's all teak, reclaimed wood from old houses that have been torn down in India, and refabricated into a table. And the chairs are very interesting. They're from a French manufacturer called Tolex, and they're all made of steel. These are from the 60s. I just thought they had a great shape, and I love, again, the patina. We had them coated with a transparent seal, so we left the rust and the texture on because we think it just looks, again, more poetic. And I love how they look. They're super comfortable, even more comfortable when you put the fur cushion in. And I just thought these made like great dining room chairs. Normally these are used outdoor or industrial spaces. But I just love, again, I love that contrast. I love clashing styles together. As you saw from our home in Amsterdam, it was quite an eclectic mix of things. And same thing here, but with a different point of view. This is much more about Italian, kind of romantic. Again, I call it romantic minimalism because it's not typically a traditional interior. It still has a contemporary feeling. And it's still fairly minimal compared to most sort of traditional interiors, but it definitely has, the sense of history and time in the space. I think this is probably the most tranquil and peaceful place I've ever been in. I grew up in Los Angeles, in a very busy, very big city. Los Angeles has about 20 million people. The little village that we live in, Laglio, which is also by chance happens to be the home of the other George Clooney, is incredibly peaceful and only 800 residents. So it is just this tiny little hamlet here on the lake that is absolutely paradise. Here it's all about romanticism, lushness. I call it romantic minimalism because the house it isn't really quite spare, but it does have a contemporary twist to a historic approach to the decoration. And I think that here, what I love to be surrounded by is Italian art, which happens to be based a lot on religious imagery. So we have a lot of Baroque and religious imagery in the house, mixed with contemporary aspects, obviously for comfort, and a kind of simple monochromatic palette that we use throughout the house to kind of tie the whole thing together. This is definitely, I think, my favorite and where my heart is at the moment. Why don't we go into the kitchen? I particularly love this kitchen, even though it's tiny. I love it for the fact that it has this wonderful French door that opens up into the garden. So you really have this inside-outside feeling here in the kitchen. You can hear the birds and the fountain, so it's wonderful to cook a nice meal for your friends, listening to the birds and the water. The kitchen was designed by a Dutch company called Eihensteel, which did our kitchen also in Amsterdam. And with this kitchen, instead of the black kind of modern feeling that we had in the house in Amsterdam, we went with a much warmer wood tone. As you can see, it's tiny, and it was even tinier before. And what we did is we actually took part of the bathroom. There's a bathroom on the other side of this wall, and we took part of it and made the bathroom much smaller and put the refrigerator and cabinetry here. We also put some mirrors in the back so that would help expand the space and also reflect the beautiful garden while you're cooking. So even though it's tiny, it's very efficient and it feels very comfortable to be in. It's not claustrophobic at all. Let's go upstairs to the bedroom area. This is one of my favorite places in the house. Welcome to our garden here in Como. This is, to me, one of the most beautiful features of the house. It's actually one of the main reasons why we purchased the house. As you can see, it is in an Italian style. It was inspired by Villa Medici in Florence. And we have this beautiful sort of fountain feature here in the center that is very symmetrical with the topiaries, which is very much like the fountain that is in the Villa Medici in Florence. I was very inspired and wanted to recreate it here in Como. We also have this wonderful little gazebo where we entertain and have guests over for dinner quite a few times. The landscaping was done by quite a well-known landscape company called Ratiflora, and they are just superb. They do such an amazing job with the garden. The garden's only 2 years old officially, but as you can see, it looks quite mature. And again, it's the artistry of Ratiflora who was able to create this impression of a mature garden even though it was newly planted. One of my other favorite areas in the garden are these beautiful 17th century wrought iron benches. This is, for us, our outdoor living room. As you can see, we have a gorgeous coffee table as well as these beautiful benches where we have aperitivi several times, at least in a week. During the summer time, we just enjoy being here with friends, drinking and eating and having a chit chat. And for us, it's an extension of our living area. These cushions are custom made for the benches. They are done by a wonderful shop called Villa Como in Cernobbio. They specialize in custom-made Italian home furnishings, and we had to make these beautiful cushions, as you can see, in a very classic black and white stripe to fit the benches. I think it's a nice little accent in the garden, little graphic touch that also pulls in some of the white from the marble coffee table. The borders around the garden are here to recreate the landscape of Como. Como is incredibly lush. Everything grows here. It has a microclimate, so everything from semi-tropical plants to deciduous plants grow in Como. And again, Ratiflora did an absolutely beautiful job. You can see there's palm trees, maples, agapanthus flowers, and something that I've never seen before, but I've always was very curious to understand the inspiration behind. This is an anacanthus leaf. This is an anacanthus plant. And if anyone is familiar with Greek and Roman architecture, the top of the columns of Greek and Roman columns use this leaf as a motif. You might know it as a little kind of swirly thing at the top of the column. This is the anacanthus leaf where that design came from. And I thought it was really lovely that Ratiflora included this in the design, especially because it's an Italian themed garden. So from the garden, as you can see, the fountain kind of makes this beautiful symmetrical design into the entrance of the home. This was probably a carriage house at one time. The building itself is very, very old. It dates back till the medieval period. It was owned originally by a Genoese family, and the pink facade that you see with the painted architectural details is actually quite Genoese in detailing. So it's ironic that I was looking for a home in Genoa and we end up in a home that was owned by a Genoese family. And yeah, we just love it. There was a lot of restoration involved with this house. When we bought it, it was owned by an elderly couple who, you know, there was a time here in Italy where everyone wanted to have a modern home. And so this elderly couple kind of updated the house to a 1980s standard. Which of course at the time when they did it, I'm sure was wonderful. We wanted to restore it back to its original splendor and kind of uncover all the amazing frescoes and architectural features the house had. So this is the bedroom area of the house where we have our guest room and also the master bedroom. I love this part of the house. The ceilings here are absolutely fabulous. You really get a sense of the grand palace it was at one time here. The ceilings are coffered and they have the medallions, which is very classic of a palazzo. Unfortunately, when we found these ceilings, they were painted dark brown. I restored them to the original color, but the original color was probably polychromed. So it was multiple colors as well as gilded. Obviously, financially, really not feasible to have an artisan come and restore all of the motifs that were here at one time. Also, just to find the talent would be really difficult nowadays. So I decided to paint it the green that we found on the ceiling below in the kitchen. That is this kind of beautiful sage, 17th century sage green. And yeah, this is the guest room. The house dates back to the 1100s, so the 12th century. The Italians, you know, they tend to maintain things pretty good. So it's like these houses were built to last forever, and they literally do last forever. I mean, when you think about like this 12th century home and it's still standing and still usable today, it's incredible, actually. This is the guest bedroom. I love this room. I think I always want to make our guests feel really special. And so you can see here we have this very kind of regal headboard. Again, using the anacanthus theme motif that you saw downstairs in the frame and also from the garden. The anacanthus leaf, for some reason, shows up everywhere in Italian decorative motifs. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful. It's really graceful and very much part of the Baroque movement. This is just a wonderful room with antiques and, you know, keeping the same sort of contemporary theme going, using the natural linen that you saw on the sofa and throughout the space downstairs, bringing that up here and using it again for the beddings, kind of continuing that visual theme that runs through to give everything still a contemporary feel, even though it's a very old home and it's decorated in a very romantic way. This vase is very, very special. This is a 17th century piece of Majolica, which my husband absolutely fell in love with. I normally don't like ceramics, but I thought this was so spectacular that we went ahead and purchased it. I forget where the origins are, but it is a very special piece, and I love these sort of griffin sea monsters on the side of it. It depicts an ocean scene. I started many years ago as a fashion designer. I graduated from Parsons School of Design. I worked for many years in fashion. Eventually I was hired by Nike, and I became creative director for apparel there. So a real fashion resume. And then I moved to Italy for a company called Mandarina Duck. I was the global chief creative officer for that company, and fell in love with Italy. I lasted there about 2 years because the job was quite stressful. And even though I enjoyed it tremendously, it was something that I felt like I needed to continue to move on and do something a little different. My sister told me, why are you looking for another job with a company? Why don't you start your own business? At the time, she was a very successful winemaker in Napa Valley. And I was very inspired by what she had created herself, and I thought I'd give it a try. I opened a business called Uxus, U-X-U-S. It became very successful. And 10 years later, I sold it to a big multinational company, the IPG Group, which was part of Future Brand, which I belong to at the moment. Let me take you into my study. This is where I work from. I love this room. Again, the high ceilings. The ceilings here, by the way, are 4 meters. So again, very expansive feeling. Even though the rooms are not very large, they feel very airy. I don't know why they don't build homes like this anymore, because this height ceiling really gives a very warm, welcoming feeling and a sense of space and airiness that you normally don't get when the ceilings are low in a home. Like our Dutch home has very low ceilings. This has the exact opposite. They're actually exact opposite homes. One is very low, very long. This one is very tall and stacked. I love this room. We also have this beautiful lake view here, so I get to sit here, look down on the garden and also over the lake and do my work. So I couldn't be happier. This is a very privileged place to be, and I'm extremely grateful for having the opportunity to have something like this. It's a 19th century painting of the Virgin and Child, which is a very typical Catholic motif. And you can see here again that anacanthus leaf that shows up everywhere in Italian art. The frame is this beautiful Baroque anacanthus themed frame. It's a very unusual piece. I don't know the history behind it. We saw it in the antique store and we fell in love with it. And originally it was going to be a headboard, but it turns out to be too small, so we put it over the sofa instead. I love it. I feel like, the Virgin Mary's looking over me while I'm working, so it's kind of nice. The chandelier is quite spectacular. I'm going to turn it on so you guys can see it. I put in like candles that look like flames. The whole thing is anacanthus leaf, and it's all carved wood. It's really amazing. I found it in a thrift store, believe it or not. Apparently, no one wanted this thing because it's too big for most homes here in Italy. But our home has a very tall ceiling, so it fit perfectly. I snagged it up immediately when I found it. I just thought it's really beautiful, and it fits perfectly in with our motif. Because normally you see chandeliers that have crystal or gold. I love that it's wood and that it has the kind of it echoes the wooden frame of the painting as well as the cabinet. Let's go into the bathroom. What's wonderful is this sort of indoor-outdoor thing that happens here in Como throughout the house. We have this bathroom. It's not a very large bathroom. Again, when they refurbished the house years ago, the owners were quite humble, and normally people that have luxury homes have giant bathrooms. This is not that way at all. It's a small bathroom, but the feature that I love is that it looks onto a medieval hamlet, and it has these wonderful windows that I just love. So we have this view of this beautiful fig tree and this wonderful little medieval hamlet that runs up along the mountain all the way to the top. And of course the beautiful mountain behind it. So it's a wonderful little feature. Even though the bathroom is quite small, having the window open again makes it feel very big and very airy. And then we're here at the master bedroom where we found another treasure. So again, this one, the realtor thought this was the worst room in the house, and it turned out to be the best room in the house. So she was telling me, like, because when I walked the house, I'm like, okay, this is going to be the master bedroom. She's like, the realtor told me, like, what? This is like the worst room. It's so claustrophobic. Blah, blah, blah. She went on and on, like this was like a bad thing. She wanted me to do the room that's the study now as the master bedroom because it has the lake view. But this room has something so special. It has one of the original frescoes of the house. And we discovered this again when we were, restoring the house. We actually went through all the rooms and chipped away at the walls. Since we had found such an important fresco in the living room, we knew that the house would have other ones. And this was the other one that we found, which we were thrilled about. And so we made this the master bedroom. Again, the high ceilings here. We don't have the coffering here, so I just painted it with what they call affumato, or a sponge look to the walls. And just filled, with wonderful antiques. This was a gift from a friend who lives above us. It's apparently a very important Christ from a church where his mom grew up in Arezzo. I just think he's wonderful. And the color blue is perfect with the color blue of our walls. And the other thing that's super special is we have a little bit of keeping the religious theme going, we have a little bit of a shrine to my great-grandfather. This is Luigi Tassara, and he's the guy who kicked off this whole adventure in Italy for me. I wanted to know a little bit more about my heritage, and this is a photograph my mom gave to me of him, and I just thought he looks so elegant and dashing, and you can see that he's standing in front of some Baroque painted fresco somewhere in Genoa. And the fireplace was not original to the room. We added the fireplace because it had this funny bump out here. And so we found this in an antique store, and we just had it added to the space. Obviously it doesn't work, but we think it's a nice decorative feature. And a mantle's always a nice focal point in a room. This painting that looks like a beautiful Italian Renaissance masterpiece in this room is actually something I bought at auction in Portland, Oregon, of all places. It's a 19th century oil painting of what looks to be Tuscan because of the cypresses. It's damaged. As you can see here, it has this mark that runs across the painting. No one wanted it. I thought it was beautiful, and I bid on it, and I got it for $200. So I was really thrilled that it was so affordable. And it shows you that, you don't have to spend a lot of money for something that looks amazing. And I think in here, it's perfect, and it looks so valuable and lovely. Although it's basically, but I've drugged this thing since I was living in Oregon, and I'm 63 now. I was 30 when I was living then, so this thing has been with me for 30 years. I don't know how it survived, but it has. This is a mercury glass witching ball from a Catholic church in Mexico. It was given to me by my first boyfriend when I was 21 years old, and I've had it ever since. It has been with me for almost 40 years, and it's been with me to London, to Bologna, to Amsterdam, to Oregon, to LA. So it's been everywhere I went, I've taken this thing with me, and it survived this whole time. And I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's extremely rare. The ball is actually attached to the base. It's marble and bronze, and I think it's the perfect accent for this corner. Look familiar? We had an oil painting done of us. I found this wonderfully talented French artist who lives in Mexico, who happened to be in Amsterdam at the time when we were there. He said he would commission an oil painting for us. He was very affordable. And I thought, okay, why not? And he took some pictures of us, and then he went back to Mexico, painted this, and he just shipped it to us. It arrived yesterday. So I hung it up here just for the show. But I love it. I think it's so beautifully done. We told him we wanted a Caravaggio look, and I think he achieved that beautifully. This golden plaque that you see here is actually a papal seal from a very predominant family in Rome. I have this wonderful antique dealer here in Como who has got the most incredible things, and I saw that and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I just think, again, anacanthus leaves everywhere as usual, but you'll see that in the center of it is the papal hat with the two keys and a crest, a family crest. I don't know who the family is. Actually, I have all the written information behind it, but I don't remember what it is. I know it's quite valuable, it's quite rare and very unique. And again, only these things, you can only find these things here in Italy. Home for me is where you feel loved, part of a community, safe, and peaceful. Homeworthy, it was so great to have you in our home, but I think it's time now for an aperitivo, and I'm gonna head over to the lake. Thanks so much, bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.